Welcome back to another Meta Monday. Crustle has been climbing the meta fast lately, and after taking 5th place at the North American International, it's time to find out if this deck really has what it takes to be a top meta contender. Today's list is the 5th place list piloted by Rahul Reddy, and honestly, it's a pretty unique take on the format. The game plan is pretty straightforward as well. Early on, you want to use Kangaskhan to sit in the active, soak up pressure, and keep drawing cards while you build up your Crustles on the bench. Once Crustle is powered up though, that's when the deck really starts to take over. It can wall off a lot of the format while slowly but consistently taking knockouts, forcing opponents into awkward positions where they can't trade efficiently. What makes this list especially strong is the disruption package. It runs Eri, Hand Trimmer, and Xerosic, giving you multiple ways to slow your opponent down, strip resources, and make it even harder for them to respond. And on top of that, the stadium lineup gives the deck even more staying power. Community Center helps keep your board healthy with extra healing, while Festival Ground shuts off status effects that could otherwise cause problems. If you want to try the list for yourself, the deck list is down in the description below. Now let's jump into the games and see if Crustle can live up to the hype. Alright, the first game I got for you guys is going to be a matchup against a pretty cool and unique deck, the Mega Frostlass and Mega Greninja deck. Now, as for our turn, we do have a pretty strong start here. We're able to get down a Kangaskhan in the active, get down a single copy of Crustle, and start attaching energy to it. And that's your general go-to plan at the start of the game, is you're wanting to start attaching energy to a Crustle as fast as possible. And then we have things like Hilda in the deck to be able to quickly get into a Crustle on the bench. That way then they can't just immediately boss it up and take it out, except for on the very first turn. Now here, our opponent is getting down a copy of Grand Tree, so that makes our life even easier, and we actually have a Petrel in hand, so we can stadium bump this Grand Tree and be the only ones that have access to it to be able to get value. Now in here, we see that our opponent is running a Snorunt. They are running the copy of Froakie as well. They also have double Munkidori, and that's one of the main ways that they can really win this matchup, is using Munkidoris to constantly move energy over to our Crustle. And we do have a lot of healing, but it's a lot of burst healing. It's not a whole bunch of consistent healing like what we would need in this situation. So here we are going to use that Grand Tree, immediately go into our Crustle on the bench, and then from here we have a couple different choices. We can either grab the Community Center or grab the Festival Grounds. We're going to grab the Community Center just for the extra healing in case they do go into like a baby Frostlass to try to deal a whole bunch of tick damage, which is what I'm suspecting that they're going to do. From here, we're just going to attach another Grass Energy to our Crustle. It's now at 190 HP, thanks to those Grass Special Energy. From here, we're just going to pass it over, and now it's down to our opponent to figure out how they want to handle this situation. Here, they do have a copy of Salvatore, so they're able to go into that copy of Mega Frostlass. Now then, they are going to be going and attacking with the Mega Frostlass. This will be able to get them 3 prizes since we have way more than 6 cards in our hand, meaning that they're going to do way more than 300 damage. They're also going to fire off this copy of Ultra Ball. This is going to get them a copy of Pokégear. That way then they can go into a Mega Greninja on a later turn and be able to start setting up a ton of damage onto our copy of Crustle. Now from here, we are forced to throw up the Crustle, but this is the last turn that we have to wait to be able to attack. Because we're able to attach that third energy, we might as well attach the Mist energy. We don't want to attach a Spiky energy because they could just swing in and find ways to be able to proc the Spiky energy with their other Pokemon, and unless we're able to take those out, then they could have that as just extra damage to move around. Otherwise, if they're just swinging with EXs, which they wouldn't be doing, they're not going to be taking any of the damage anyway, so it kind of is just not really that useful. It's better to just attach the Mist energy here because it can matter, especially with our opponent having a Mega Frostlass. Its second attack can put us to sleep, and that can be pretty annoying later on in the game and buy them the turns that they need to be able to knock out our Crustle. Now, and as for our turn, we are drawing into a copy of Petrel, and then we're just going to swing and deal another 120 damage, putting our opponent's Mega Frostlass down to less than 100 HP remaining. This way we can take a knockout on it next turn, and even if they do retreat it, we have the boss's orders to be able to boss it up, take that 3 prize knockout, and move all of that damage off of their side of the field. Now in here, they are going to use a copy of Energy Search. This way they can actually get their dark energy that they need to attach to a Munkidori. They're going to be throwing up their copy of Meowth EX. It has 170 HP. And for some reason, they didn't attach a dark energy to their Munkidori, so they just ended up passing, but we have the boss's orders anyway. We're going to bring up their copy of Mega Frostlass. From here, we're just going to swing, take that knockout, go down to 3 prizes remaining ourselves, and now all we have to do is find more bosses to be able to go after other problematic Pokemon, and we'll be able to win the game pretty easily. Now in this turn, they do finally decide to attach a dark energy to a Munkidori. Most likely, they were just trying to play around a boss going after whatever Munkidori had a dark energy on it, which is a pretty smart decision, but at the same time, if we just got rid of their Mega Frostlass, we got rid of all of their damage on their side of the field, so it's better to try to bait us going after the Munkidori rather than going after their Mega Frostlass. Now in here, they do get the other copy of Munkidori powered up too, so now this is a little bit of a trickier situation. From here, what we can do is we can use our Lisia's appeal or go for the Eri. We are going to go for the Eri here. This way we can see exactly what our opponent has left in their hand, get rid of any items that we can as well, which we did get rid of a Poffin and a copy of their Mega Signals, so that's one less way of finding their Mega Pokemon and a little bit harder to find another copy of Snorunt. Now in here, they are going to be moving the damage back over to our Crustle since they do have both Munkidoris, but we need to be putting them into pressure and trying to pressure this copy of Meowth as fast as possible. From here, they will be attaching for turn and then retreating into their copy of Fez. Now they are going to fire off a copy of Lillie's Determination as well, going up to 6 cards in hand. Now we don't know exactly what they have in their hand. They are going to be using our own community center against us, but they are still within range of us taking a knockout on that Meowth. So that's exactly what we're going to do here. We're going to fire off this Lisia's, bring up their Meowth. They're going to see the line and concede. Alright, the second game I got for you guys is going to be one of the toughest matchups you could possibly face with this deck, and this is going to be Team Rocket's Honchkrow. What makes this so difficult is they're not an EX Pokemon, so Crustle can't wall them off, and they're able to easily one-shot whatever Pokemon we have in the active. So our Kangaskhan's, which is going to be our main way of really trying to stop them and win the game, are easily outable because they're able to discard all of their supporters to be able to do so. Now in here, we do decide to still prioritize getting a Crustle built up if possible. This way we can try to buy a turn or two and see if we can really find a way of getting through all this. So we will be attaching some grass energy. It does make it a little bit more expensive for our opponent to be able to get rid of our Crustles as well, and that's kind of what we're hoping for. Now in here, they are going to start their turn by firing off a copy of Pokepad. This gets them down a copy of Honchkrow. We did attach our handheld fan to our Mega Kangaskhan last turn, so if they attack into our Kangaskhan, we will be able to move that energy onto their Porygon, and that's going to be pretty good and one of the main things that we need in order to win this type of game. But instead, they do have the Giovanni to go after the Crustle. This way they can play around that handheld fan for one more turn and be able to get a second attack off with this copy of Honchkrow. Now, and as for our turn, we do draw into a copy of Boss's Orders. That's going to be one of the main win conditions that we have, is being able to use Boss to try to keep them off of a attack as long as possible later on in the game to try to deck out our opponent. Now in here, we are going to attach a copy of Spiky Energy. It does get a card out of our hand, and more importantly, it can deal some extra damage in case we do find a way where we need to attack with a Crustle. It's going to be a little bit easier to take those knockouts. But ultimately, attacking is not going to be the way that we win. We are going to fire off this Lisia's. This way we can pull up their Porygon, make them use even more energy out of their hand if they want to be able to attack this turn. Now in here, they are going to fire off a copy of Petrel as their supporter for turn. This way they can actually look through their deck, find something else that they could possibly use, and if it's a trainer card, then we can use Eri next turn to be able to get rid of it, but instead they are just going to grab a copy of Ariana. So we know that next turn they most likely will be firing off that Ariana. From here, we are just going to attach and then fire off Kang's ability, drawing 2, before firing off Lily's just to get a better hand. We do find a second Kangaskhan, so we will get that down. And again, our main route of winning the game is just stopping our opponent from being able to take a knockout at the very end and being able to run them out of those resources. So we get down to that second Kang, that way then later on we can attach our hero's cape to it, make it 400 HP, and hopefully that's enough to where they're not able to deal with it. We do have other cards to be able to heal our copy of Kangaskhan and try to make it as tough for our opponent as possible. Now in here, they do fire off that copy of Ariana. They do use a copy of Factory, drawing some cards, but they end up just passing the turn. So it's time to take as much advantage of this opportunity as possible. So we will be attaching to our active Kangaskhan, firing off this copy of Eri as well. Getting rid of that transceiver is huge. Getting rid of a stretcher is pretty okay as well. We do see the rest of their hand. They have an Archer, they have a Petrel, a Proton, along with another energy in that Factory. So we know that their hand is pretty much dead other than the Archer and the Petrel. Now in here, we will just take a knockout. This means that they still have an energy that they can attach to another copy of Murkrow and potentially get into another Honchkrow, since they do have the stretcher to do so. But now they are relying most likely on Archer to be able to draw them into a better hand and then use Factory to be able to get the other cards that they need. So instead, they are going to go for the safer bet of just firing off this copy of Petrel, getting a Roto Stick, and they get extremely lucky finding 3 supporters from it, which means that they could potentially take a knockout this turn. If they do, we will be able to move their copy of Team Rocket's energy onto the Porygon, making it a little bit harder for them to do another consecutive attack, and they are going to choose to put down another copy of Honchkrow and then fire off their attack, discarding 5 copies of supporters. This way they deal exactly 300 damage, taking the knockout. We will be able to do a little extra damage from these spiky energies. Doesn't really matter too much, but we are moving that Team Rocket's energy over to their Porygon, and that's what matters the most here. Now, and we are forced to throw up our new copy of Kangaskhan, and we will be having to start attaching to it as well. So what we're going to do here first is we're going to fire off this copy of Ultra Ball. This way we can discard a Lillie's and we can discard a Mist Energy and find a copy of Dwebble here. Now, and the reason why I'm going for this play, I know it seems unorthodox, we are now going to be drawing 2 cards, is because if we find that Petrel, we can get our copy of Switch, and that's going to buy us 1 extra turn or force our opponent to have to fire off a Giovanni's as well, which limits their turn of being able to potentially knock out our Kangaskhan. So we're trying to do as much as we possibly can to buy us as much time as possible to be able to win the game. So that's exactly why I go for this type of play. Now, from the Factory, we do draw into the hero's cape, so that makes this play even better because now it's a 400 HP Kangaskhan that they would have to get through. I'm also making sure to constantly check my opponent's discard to see exactly how many copies of Team Rocket supporters they have left and how many ways they have of searching those out of their decks, because they are down to only 21 cards remaining. Now in here, they are in a very tough position. They could attach an energy for turn to their copy of Honchkrow if they have it, be able to discard 2 supporters, get rid of our Dwebble, but that is a-okay in my book because that's 2 less supporters that they could have to deal damage to our Kangaskhan. Now in here, they will be attaching a 3rd Team Rocket's energy to their Honchkrow and then firing off its attack, discarding 2 copies of supporters, dealing that 120 damage to be able to take the knockout. More importantly, one of those is the Ariana, so that makes it a little bit harder for our opponent to be able to knock out this Kangaskhan, because that's a little bit less card draw that they're going to have next turn. Now, and from here, we also have this copy of Eri. We did see them add that copy of their Ace Spec, that headset, to their hand, so we're able to take that and the Roto Stick out of their hand, and that is a huge play right there. That severely hurts our opponent's ways of being able to take the knockout on this Kangaskhan. Now, and from here, our opponent really has to figure out how are they going to win this game, and the main way that they can still win this game is if they attack with this copy of Honchkrow, discard some supporters, and then fire off a Porygon 2 next turn to be able to deal the rest of the damage. As for us, we do have a pretty stacked hand. All we need is one more energy and we'll be able to heal our Kangaskhan and potentially keep it alive long enough to be able to win the game. So even though this is one of our toughest matchups by far, it's still pretty close if you play it right. Now, and they are going to decide to attack with Honchkrow, discarding just a singular supporter. This way they can keep whatever they need left in their hand. So what we're really looking for here is an energy to be able to use our copies of Ice Cream and then potentially find our Xerosics as well. And that would be a massive play in our favor. Now, and from here, we don't find what we need right off the bat, so I can fire off this copy of Hand Trimmer to be able to limit their hand, but we're going to fire off one Pokégear first, see what we find. We don't really find anything super useful right now. I mean, that is a full heal supporter card, but our Pokemon has to be down to 30 HP or less in order for it to be a full heal. And if we're down to that low, then we're pretty much close to losing the game. Now in here, we can discard double Crustle for sure, and then it's kind of a tough decision what we discard as well. We can discard that full heal, but that means that we're relying solely on the Ice Creams to be able to keep us alive. So it's something that I'd rather be able to hold on to. We can discard the Lilies as well, or the Pokégear. I decided to discard the Lilies, see what we find here. We do find a copy of Xerosics, but we unfortunately don't find an energy yet, so we have to do that draw too. We still don't find the energy, so now we are in desperation mode. What we have to do is just fire off this copy of Boss's Orders. I can bring up their Honchkrow. It's going to be hard for them to be able to attack with this Honchkrow, and it's pretty hard for them to be able to attack with a copy of Porygon 2, since they will have to attach return to the Honchkrow or find one of their final copies of Giovanni. They do have a copy of Transceiver. This is going to get them their Giovanni, and now it's down to, do they have the Porygon 2 plus a Ignition Energy to be able to do the attack? They are going to fire off that Giovanni, get down the Porygon 2. They do have the Ignition, so that means that they will be able to swing for enough for game. And that's going to do it for today's Meta Monday. Crustle is definitely one of the more unique decks in the format right now, and it's easy to see why it's been putting up such strong results. But what do you think? Is Crustle a real top tier threat, or just a strong meta call right now? If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe. I post new videos every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.